Okay, welcome back to the channel. From here on out, it'll just be me. Chandler got too busy with school, so there will be a change to the name, and I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but it will probably be within the week. But today we're going to be talking about the NFL. We're going to be doing NFC and AFC predictions, playoffs, who I think is going to win the MVP this year, Rookie of the Year, stuff like that. But this portion of the video is just going to be NFC, who I think is going to win division, stuff like that. Then I'll do another portion where will be just AFC, and then I'll put up playoffs, predictions for that, Super Bowl winners, stuff like that, and end of season awards. So we're going to start out with the NFC North. Last year, the Bears won this division. We'll see if they can do it again. We're going to start out with the Green Bay Packers. They went 6-9-1 last year. Um, I don't think they're going to be that much better this year. They also lose Clay Matthews, Randall Cobb, and Mike Daniels. All those people they kind of let go anyways. They didn't want to re-sign Clay Matthews or Randall Cobb because of age and injury situations. Then they cut Mike Daniels, who actually joined a division rival in Detroit. And I actually think that's a very good pickup for Detroit. I still think he's got some good years left in him. They also added Bears ex-safety, Adrian Amos. So that's a big safety upgrade for them, in my opinion. He's a very good player, and he's also makes them a little bit younger on defense. They also get a key piece at linebacker who's a very good pass rusher, and Preston Smith from the Washington Redskins, and they needed that because they didn't get much edge pressure last year, and he'll provide that hopefully. I think he had five and a half to six sacks last year. This year I have him going 8-8 and 3-3 in the division. I just think, from what I'm hearing, in my opinion, it was a very stupid hire in Matt LaFleur. The guy's never coached before. You're only hiring him because he has some relation to Sean McVay. I think that's stupid. I don't like how the whole NFL decided to hire someone who at some point touched Sean McVay. It's like he's Jesus. If you touch him, you might get something from him. It's so dumb. I don't understand why people are following this guy. I mean, the guy put up 3 points in the Super Bowl. Yeah, he's obviously not an all-time great coach. I think he's a good offensive mind. I think he's a good coach, but he's not someone who you should be hiring off of a coaching tree yet. He's not Bill Walsh, Bill Parcells, Joe Gibbs. He's just not that. So I have him going 8-8 and 3-3 in the division. Next up, we have the Chicago Bears, who went 12-4 last year, 5-1 in the division. This was actually my one of my hot picks for last year. I thought they'd win 9 to 10 games and I thought they'd compete with the Vikings for the division. They ended up winning 12 games and won the division. I had them in the 49ers as breakout teams. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see the 49ers breakout because of Jimmy Garoppolo's injury. And actually, I kind of cooled on that pick. I don't think they'll be as good as I thought they would be because I don't really believe in Jimmy Garoppolo like everyone else does. I think he's a good quarterback, but the contract he got was utterly ridiculous, making him the highest paid NFL quarterback after 5 games. Idiotic to me. They lost Vic Fangio, their defensive coordinator, now the head coach of my Denver Broncos. They also lost Bryce Callahan, a really good slot cornerback, probably one of the best, if not the best, slot cornerbacks in pro football. They added Clinton Dix, so pretty much Clinton Dix and Adrian Amos traded spots at the safety positions. Clinton Dix went to the Bears. Adrian Amos went to the Packers. I think the Packers got an upgrade there. I think Clinton Dix is a little bit of a downgrade, even though the numbers may say otherwise. They also get cornerback Buster Screen. That is a huge downgrade from Bryce Callahan. Bryce Callahan's younger. He's more athletic. He's just better coverage guy than Buster Screen at this point. And even when Buster Screen was in his prime, he was. I have the Bears going 10-6 this year, 4-2 in the division. So a little bit of a step back. And that's because I just don't see how they're going to be as good as they were on defense. I think they'll be a little bit better on offense, especially with David Montgomery at running back. I think that's a really good pickup in the NFL draft. He's definitely an improvement over Jordan Howard, in my opinion. So, like I said, I have him going 10-6 and 4-2 in the division. Next team up, the Minnesota Vikings. Everyone was high on this team a year ago, but they were only able to go 8-7-1 last year and 3-2-1 in the division. That tie was with Green Bay, I believe. That's why Green Bay has a tie. And obviously it has to be because Detroit didn't have a tie, and neither did Chicago. So that's the tie was between Green Bay and Minnesota last year. And Kirk Cousins, another quarterback who got paid too much. And I know it's next up gets paid the most, which I think is another thing that's wrong with the NFL. You shouldn't pay the guy just because he's the next man up. That means at some point Mitch Trubisky is going to be the highest paid, and he should nowhere near be the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, even though I do think he is underrated. He's not a top 10 quarterback. He's probably in the 12 to 14 or 11 to 14 range. I think they're going to go a little bit better this year. Take out the tie, so they're 9-7 with the 4-2 record in the division. Some of the key losses, why I think they won't be as good. They lost Sheldon Richardson off the defensive line and safety Andrew Sandejo. Now, Sandejo, in my opinion, wasn't that good of a safety, but someone is going to have to step in and fill his place because he was a starting safety for them. They almost lost Anthony Barr too, but lucky for them, he got homesickness and decided to back out of that contract with the Jets and re-sign with the Vikings. That would have been a gigantic loss. He's one of the top 3 players they have on their defense, along with probably Harrison Smith, and then debatable. You can debate either Xavier Rhodes, Anthony Barr, or Everson Griffin for the top 3 spots. But you have to put Harrison Smith in there. He's undoubtedly probably their best defender on that team. And then the Detroit Lions, they went 6-10 last year, 2-4 in the division. They lose Golden Tate, which is going to be a big loss because now you're counting on a young wide receiver in Kenny Golladay, and I don't know if he can get the job done. We'll have to see. They do add Danny Amendola, though, and Trey Flowers, which is a good pickup for them because they got absolutely no pass rush. They haven't had a good pass rusher in a while, and the last good defensive lineman they've had is an Ndamukong Suh. They also added an underrated slot cornerback in Justin Coleman from the Seattle Seahawks. That's going to be an improvement there at slot corner. I think they're going to go 6-10 again, 1-5 in the division. I hear the same thing from Detroit every year. Oh, we got better. You may have gotten better at certain positions. That's true. I don't believe in Matt Patricia, and I don't believe in Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford fills up the stat sheet with a lot of empty stats because he's forced to throw the ball at the end of games because they're down. And Matt Patricia, if you look at Bill Belichick's coaching tree, it's very barren, and I just think he's going to fail. So I have the Chicago Bears winning this division and Minnesota competing for a potential wild card spot. Next up, the NFC South. In my opinion, this is probably the deepest division in pro football. We'll see if that pans out this year. And we're going to start out with the Atlanta Falcons, who went 7-9 last year and 4-2 in the division. And I think that's a good record of what they had to deal with. I mean, you lose Keanu New and Deion Jones on defense, your 2 best defenders, and then you also lose Vic Beasley for a little period of time last year. So your 3 best defenders were all injured for a majority of the season, and you went 7-9. That's a pretty good job by Dan Quinn. They also fired both their coordinators, and Steve Sarkisian, who's now the offensive coordinator at Alabama, and defensive coordinator Markand Manuel, I believe is how you pronounce his name, and Dan Quinn will be stepping in as the defensive coordinator, and he was actually the defensive coordinator for the Legion of Boom defense in Seattle when they beat Peyton Manning, destroyed Peyton Manning in that Super Bowl. So maybe he can turn that around. Hopefully he can, because they got a lot of talent on defense. And then Steve Sarkisian just didn't push the ball enough downfield. I mean, you have Mohamed Sanu and Julio Jones, and he wanted to dink and dunk it down the field. It made no sense. He's an okay offensive coordinator. I think he's been pretty overstated at how good he is because he was with USC back in the heyday, and that was easy. I mean, you had NFL talent all over the field, so I think any idiot could have done well with that team. We'll see how he does with Alabama, though. Replacing him is Dirk Cutter, the former Tampa Bay head coach. So I think Dirk Cutter will do a decent job there. He's a good offensive mind. He just wasn't a good head coach. That's most coordinators when they get hired there. I mean, 8 out of 10 of them fail just because they're not good with managing personalities and stuff like that, but they're good football minds. They add a lot of offensive linemen. They went heavy in the draft with offensive linemen such as Caleb McGarry in the first round. I think they went there in the second round too. I don't know who it was. They also add Jamon Brown and offensive guard James Carpenter. James Carpenter has played for the Seahawks and most recently the Jets. And then they added Jamon Brown, who played for the Los Angeles Rams, who had a spectacular offensive line. So that's a good pickup. And then they bring back Adrian Claiborne, who wasn't on their team last year. He was actually on the Patriots, but they bring him back. He was there 2 years ago. So I think that'll help a little bit with the pass rush. They struggled on the offensive defensive lines. I expect that to be much improved. And for that reason, I expect them to go 11-5, 5-1 in the division. I liked this team last year. I think if they would have stayed healthy, they would have competed for the Super Bowl. I mean, they beat the Rams 2 years ago now in LA, and they almost beat Philadelphia in Philadelphia to get in the NFC Championship game, but they couldn't do that. The next team up, we have the Carolina Panthers, who went 7-9 last year and 2-4 in the division. They add outside linebacker Bruce Irvin, who was with the Falcons after being released by the Raiders last year. He's decent. He's on the downside of his career, though. They also add one of the top 5 centers in the league, Matt Paradis, a great run blocker. He's a pretty good pass protector, too, but he's mostly known for his run blocking. And they add wide receiver Chris Hogan from the Patriots. I think they're going to go 9-7 this year with a 3-3 division record. Like I said, this is a deep division. I think they're talented, but they also lose Thomas Davis on the defensive side, so that will hurt the leadership over there. If Luke Kuechly can stay healthy, they may do better than this. But I'm also counting that he hasn't been healthy for the last 2 or 3 years. So 9-7 was a good record for me, I feel like. Next up, the New Orleans Saints, who are a very trendy Super Bowl pick this year. I just don't believe it. I think Drew Brees is starting. I think you saw the last couple games of last year. He was starting on the downside of his career. His arm strength wasn't where it used to be. They actually started throwing a lot less if you look at the numbers. Now, he threw for a lot of yardage. I checked. He threw in the last 7 or 8 games, threw for 300 yards twice. But his yards per attempt did drop a little bit, and his attempts dropped a little bit. So I think they know, too, that they got to preserve his arm, which you've got Alvin Kamara and now Latavius Murray in the backfield instead of Mark Ingram. I think you can do that pretty well. I have him going 13-3 this year and a 4-2 record. Or no, sorry, that was last year. They went 13-3 and 4-2 in the division. I have them going 11-5 this year and 4-2 in the division. I just think it's a little bit of a step back. They're still going to be a great team. 11-5 still means you're a very good football team. Next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who went 5-11 and 2-4 in the division last year. They added Shaq Barrett and Deion Buchanan to do it all and play safety and linebacker, bring him in the box to blitz, and even swing out line wide and play corner a little bit. And they also bring in Ndamukong Suh after cutting Gerald McCoy, who went to another division team in the Carolina Panthers. I think a lot of these guys, when they get cut, like to go in division, so they still prove to that team, hey, guess what? I'm still here, and I'm a lot better than you think I was. And I think Gerald McCoy for the Panthers will have a good season with them. But I also think they got Ndamukong Suh was a great pickup for the Buccaneers. I think he's still got a lot of good football left. He was actually, if you look at it, probably a more productive and a better player. He popped off the screen, to me at least, more than Aaron Donald did in the postseason. Aaron Donald played well, and I think when you game plan, obviously like you do in the postseason, you can take out a player like Aaron Donald, whereas Suh, you don't really game plan for him anymore, so it's kind of perfect fit for him. Now he probably will be game playing again, so we'll see how he does being the main focus of an offense and see if he still has that production. I have him going 3-13 this year. Even with Bruce Arians coming in, the offense, I still think Jameis Winston's going to turn the ball over. I still think they don't have enough talent on defense. They let one of their best players go in Quan Alexander. I just don't think this team's going to be that good. I have them 3-13 and 0-6. And you have to have bad teams. I can't have everyone going 8-8, 9-7, 7-9. So they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, in my opinion, this year at 3-13. Next, we're going to go to the NFC East, and we're going to be talking about the Dallas Cowboys. I'm sure everyone's heard about everything. They're always the most examined team, under the microscope team in the offseason, and there wasn't any difference this offseason with Ezekiel Elliott holding out, and he finally got his contract, and that's good for my fantasy team along with countless other people's fantasy teams. And also, it's just good for football. He's a good running back. It's good to see him out there. He's, in my opinion, probably the best running back in football, but he's for sure top 3. I don't think that's debatable. Eric Dickerson actually said today on First Take that Saquon Barkley was better than him, and that's only 1 year of production. I need to see more from Saquon before I'm willing to say that. But they added wide receiver Randall Cobb and Robert Quinn. Jason Witten also steps out of retirement and out of the ESPN Monday Night booth, where he was not very good, but he's a better football player, so he decided to go that way. That's good for us. We don't have to listen to him on Monday night. Now we get to actually watch him play a little bit more. And I think he's got a little bit left in the tank, and it's a nice safety blanket to have. Also, Robert Quinn, I like to pick up a good edge rusher. You already are really good there with DeMarcus Lawrence and David Irving and people of that nature, and then you bring in Robert Quinn, so it helps the depth there, if anything, and I still think he's got a decent amount of football left. Randall Cobb, on the other hand, is going to have to prove it to me. He's too injured. He's pretty old at this point. Well, he's actually not that old. I think he's about 29 to 30, but with the amount of wear and tear on his body, his age may say 29 to 30, but his body has to be like 33 to 34. He's been beat up a lot. We'll see how they use him there. I'm interested to see that. Cowboys went 10-6 last year and 5-1, like I said, and I think they'll go 10-6 this year, and the only difference is I have them losing one more division game. They'll be 4-2. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, who went 9-7, 4-2 in the division, 12-4, 4-2 in the division. They add and bring back Vinny Curry. He was there. He wasn't there last year. He was actually with the Buccaneers, who released him. and now he'll be back. This is probably the best defensive line in football. You have Brandon Graham, you have Vinny Curry, you have Fletcher Cox, and then you bring in Malik Jackson to play next to Fletcher Cox. This defensive line is loaded. They probably have the best line combination, in fact, with defensive and offensive line. You could argue that they have the best of each unit in the NFL. They also bring in Richard Rodgers at tight end, so another tight end for Carson Wentz to throw to. Maybe he can find some rapport with him like he's found with Zach Ertz. And then they also bring back Deshaun Jackson, who played there for a long time and was with the Redskins and the Buccaneers for a while. I think this is a great pickup. You have him and Aguilar and Alshon Jeffrey, so you have a lot of big play threats at wide receiver. And then you add Jordan Howard in the trade. I think this is a decent move. I don't think he's the greatest running back, but you have Miles Sanders and Lendell Smallwood to go with Jordan Howard, who's more of a thumper. So those two guys can catch the ball, and then Jordan Howard can come in the red zone and punch it in for you, so that's good. I'm high on this team. I think they're going to be 12-4 and 4-2. I just think they're undoubtedly a top 5 roster in the NFL. I think they're the best roster in the NFL behind a good coach and a good quarterback in Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz. So like I said, 12-4 and 4-2 in the division. Next, we're going to look at the Washington Redskins, who went 7-9 and 2-4 last year in the division. Their only real key addition was Landon Collins, and that's a really good pickup. He's, in my opinion, one of the best safeties in football. The Giants are kind of rebuilding, so they didn't want to spend on him. I understand that, but I said what I said. I think he's a very good safety. They also lose Preston Smith, like I said, to the Green Bay Packers, so that's going to be a little bit of a loss. But you still have decent pieces on defense. Josh Norman, he's still a good corner. He's overpaid, but he's still a good cornerback. You also have Ryan Kerrigan at linebacker and a bunch of other players that are from Alabama. They seem to love drafting Alabama players and SEC players. They drafted Montez Sweat. I think he's out for the year, though. I'm not sure. But if he's not, he's a freak, and he'll help them pass rushing as well. I have them going 5-11, so a little bit of a down year compared to last year, and 2-4 in the division. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be Jay Gruden's last year. I think he's a good coach. I think someone should hire him right away. I just think he's dealt with bad management and bad injury luck. They seem to have very good players get injured all the time, and it doesn't help also that Trent Williams, one of the top 5 left tackles in the game, probably won't play a game for them this year. He's holding out, and so far he hasn't reported, so I wouldn't assume he will probably come back. I could see him coming back week 10, because if you're not back before then your contract doesn't count, so it just keeps going on with them. So let's say he has, I don't know what his contract situation is, but let's say it's a 3-year deal. If he doesn't come back by week 10, then that's still a 3-year deal, where if he does come back by week 10, that counts as a year off his contract, so that'll be down to, let's say 2 years. So I think he'll come back probably actually for the last 6 games, just because he wants that year to count so he can finally get out of there. If I were them, I would trade him. You can get a lot for him. You can get probably a first round. There will be a team that will give you a first round pick and even more for him. He's that good a left tackle. He's been a Pro Bowler for the last 5 or 6 years. And like I said, I think they'll be 5-11 and 2-4 in the division. Next up, we get to the New York Giants, who were 5-11 last year, 1-5 in the division. They had Jabril Peppers and Kevin Zeitler via the trade, where they sent Odell Beckham Jr. to the Mistake by the Lake, and they sent Olivier Vernon there as well. And I think that was a great trade for the Browns. And the Giants also received in that package a first and third round pick. So I think they did pretty well in the trade as well. They got better on the offensive line with Zeitler, who's one of the best guards in football. And then Jabril Peppers started to play very well down the stretch for the Browns last year, so hopefully he can do the same with them. And then they also add Marcus Golden, who's more of a rotational player on defense, so not that big of a deal on the defensive side of the football, but they also added him as well. I just think they're going to be a disaster this year. I have them going 2-14, 1-5 in the division. I think Daniel Jones probably starts the last 5 to 6 games for them. I think they throw Eli Manning out there as kind of a sacrificial lamb and force him to retire, because I believe he does have a year left on this deal. I don't see him playing the last 2 years with the Giants. I'd be absolutely shocked if he's with the Giants next year. And I'd be shocked if he's in the NFL. If I were him, I'd retire after this year, but we'll have to see. Like I said, 2-14 this year, 1-5 in the division. So the winner I have for this division is the Philadelphia Eagles with a 12-4 record and 4-2 in this division. Next up, we have the NFC West, and we're going to start out with the San Francisco 49ers, who went 4-12 last year and 1-5 in the division. They added a lot of people this offseason. They added Quan Alexander, Tevin Coleman, D Ford, among others, but those are the biggest names. I mean, Quan Alexander is a great pickup for them at linebacker. They sorely need him. They haven't had very good linebacker play there since Bowman's injury, and then his career unfortunately was cut short. He was a great linebacker. I mean, they had the one of the best linebacking cores in the NFL, probably the best, with Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, and Chris Borland was a backup on that team, and I think he was in the top 5 NFL tackles the year after he took over Patrick Willis's position. Then he retired. So they really haven't had good linebacker play there since then. Hopefully Quan Alexander can step in and be that linebacker. I also get Tevin Coleman, which is a huge pickup, and that was before the Jarrett McKinnon injury, who was picked up last year from the Vikings. He was injured last year, and he's going to be out again this year for the rest of the year. So Tevin Coleman's a great pickup for them, and great pickup in fantasy football if you need a running back. I think he's going to have a gigantic year with them, especially in Kyle Shanahan's offense, because he had a really good year under Shanahan when they went to the Super Bowl with the Falcons. Then you get D Ford, who had over 10 sacks last year and is just a sack machine, and he's young. And the Chiefs were moving from a 3-4 defense to a 4-3, so he didn't really fit the scheme, so they sent him to the 49ers, so that's good luck for the 49ers. I actually have the 49ers doing pretty good this year. 7-9 and 2-4. I wouldn't say it's what the fans would want, but it's pretty good. I would say they probably want a 9-7, 8-8 record, especially with the money you spent on Jimmy Garoppolo. 7-9 is probably not appropriate, but for looking at your team and looking where you're at, I think 7-9 is a decent record, and 2-4 in the division as well. Then we go to the Super Bowl runner-ups and the Los Angeles Rams. They went 13-3 last year and swept the division 6-0. There are a couple of close games in there though with Seattle. They always play with Seattle tough even when they were bad, and Seattle was good. Now Seattle's not as good as them, but they still play each other tough. I don't really know what to say about this team because they left us all with that bad taste in our mouths from watching the Super Bowl. 3 points against anybody is unacceptable, especially in a Super Bowl when you have 2 weeks to prepare. And the Patriots weren't world beaters on defense, and you're supposed to be an offensive genius in Sean McVay. You have to get more than 3 points. That's unacceptable. And the Super Bowl runner-up in the past has not done well. They've either missed the playoffs or barely squeaked in, like the Eagles did last year. They squeaked in with a wild card at 9-7. I think they're going to regress this year. They did pick up Clay Matthews and Eric Weddle. Eric Weddle's going to fill in for LaMarcus Joyner, who left, but he won't be able to fill those shoes. LaMarcus Joyner is a better player at this point than Eric Weddle. And Clay Matthews, that's good depth at linebacker for them. I like that pickup. I think they're going to go 11-5 this year, and I think they're only going to lose one game in the division. I have them going 5-1. Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks, who went 10-6 last year and 3-3 in the division. I think this was a surprise team. A couple people predicted them in the media to be pretty good, including Colin Cowherd, who I don't really like, but he does pretty good job with his predictions. I just feel like there's going to be a regression. You lose Doug Baldwin, who is Russell Wilson's safety blanket and best wide receiver, and you need to replace that. Maybe DK Metcalf can step in, but he's injured right now, so I don't really know what's going on, if he's ready for the opening week or not. And that was his problem with Ole Miss. He couldn't stay healthy, so if he can't stay healthy in college, what makes you think he can stay healthy in the NFL? I'll have to see it to believe it. He's an athletic freak, don't get me wrong. But I just don't see them being as good as they were last year. I'm going 8-8 and 4-2 in the division. Next up, we have the Arizona Cardinals, who hired Cliff Kingsbury in the offseason, which was a surprise to many people, including myself, because the guy didn't have a winning season, I believe, other than one at Texas Tech, and his defense was always atrocious. Now, his offense was good, but the thing is, most of the offenses in the Big 12 are good. And then he was fired from there, and then he signed on with USC. A month later, gets the Arizona Cardinals job as a head coach. I think this would have been a fantastic hire as offensive coordinator. I don't like the hire as head coach. I don't think he can manage people very well. I don't think that's why he did very well at Texas Tech. And I don't think he'll do well in the NFL. I just don't. I do like the pickup of Kyler Murray, though, at quarterback. I think he's delivers the football accurately and on time. I think he knows the offense very well, and he's a very explosive athlete. So that he did at least pick the right player for his offense and shipped out Josh Rosen, who didn't fit his offense whatsoever. I have him going a repeat of last year pretty much. 3-13, the only difference is they lose one more division game than they did last year at 1-5. They did pick up Jordan Hicks, which is going to help tremendously at linebacker. The Eagles lost him. They're going to miss him. Former University of Texas player, so that's good. And then Marcus Gilbert, they got him in a trade. He was a good lineman with the Steelers, but they didn't need him anymore. They have other players who can fill in for him, so they traded him with Arizona for, I believe, a 5th-round pick. So that'll help out their offensive line because their offensive line last year was probably the worst in football, and that's why Josh Rosen looked as bad as he did. That's going to do it with the NFC side, and here are my playoff teams for the NFC. I have the Philadelphia Eagles, the 1 seed, the Los Angeles Rams, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, the Atlanta Falcons, the 4 seed, the Chicago Bears, the 5 seed, the New Orleans Saints, and the 6 seed, the Dallas Cowboys. That'll do it for this video. The NFL with the NFC side. Tune in for the AFC side, and then after that, there'll be a video of playoff predictions and Super Bowl winner. I hope you liked it. Please like this video. Please subscribe if you want more content. Thank you. Have a good day.